Hello again. I always enjoy watching shifty, evasive and dishonest politicians trying to wriggle out of the difficulties into which their poor behaviour has led them. I gain particular pleasure when the person concerned is a kind of sanctimonious wretch who has made a career out of urging people to behave ethically and do the decent thing. I remember quite a few characters of this kind over the years, but for sheer audacity, I think that the former Health Secretary must surely be in a class of his own. I'm sure that we all have our favourite moments from Matt Hancock's performances over the last few years, and so I can only give my own personal favourite highlights. I was hugely impressed when he pretended to cry during a television interview. I'll give a link to this in the description to this video. It was 2 years ago in the run-up to Christmas 2020, and he was apparently excited about the vaccine. Mind you, if you watch that clip, it's difficult to tell at one point whether he is pretending to cry or merely suppressing his laughter. I love the line which he comes out with during this display, that we have just got to carry on sticking to the rules. That was just before he told the audience that all this made him proud to be British. Of course, 4 months later, he had his tongue down his new mistress's throat on government premises, so it seems he was unable himself to abide by all those mad rules that he had gleefully imposed upon the rest of us. There do seem to be rather a lot of questions being asked too about contracts for PPE equipment. And hot on the heels of a woman in the Lords deciding to take a bit of time off, we learned that she had apparently been bullying the Health Secretary. She was, it seems, extraordinarily aggressive, according to Matt Hancock, in an email about contracts for PPE. Poor fellow, that might be partly why he has decided to stand down before the next election. I have a strong suspicion that the PPE contracts, which we are hearing more and more about, are going to turn into a gigantic scandal. I don't say that Hancock is connected with any of it, but I can see that there might be some embarrassment, perhaps via guilt by association. There is, I think, still a lot of mileage to be had out of Matt Hancock, and the newspapers are circling around him at the moment as though they scent blood. There have long been rumours of deals about contracts for the supply of protective clothing, contracts which might perhaps not bear close examination. If this should blow up into a scandal, it's hard to see how the then Health Secretary would be able to avoid having to answer some very searching questions about what was going on at the time. You would, after all, expect that if anybody knew the true story about all this, then it must surely be the Secretary of State for Health. I was never all that enthusiastic about the COVID business anyway, and took no part in it. But I know that a lot of people did, and that there were very bad consequences from the lockdown, which we are still seeing, i.e. hundreds of people a week dying who needn't have died. To see some of those involved in this business being called to account might prove quite satisfying, I think.